Welcome back to another episode of Consciously Evolving Enterprises, where we tell you a dramatic story that is based on true events. We try and make that story interesting and insightful, not only that, engaging for you guys. Please enjoy. Anyway, this one is about a young fella left home alone, which we're all excited to do when we're young men. We're going to describe what the situation was for this young guy, and please enjoy. Anyways, one day, young Ryan's left at home after the parents decided that they were going to go and pick up their new car. So anyway, the new car was obviously a second-hand four-wheel drive, sedan looking type thing. And the family was very excited to go and get it. So anyway, young Ryan's parents decided they're going to pack up themselves and the young newborn sister and the older sister at the time. They decided they're going to pack up the family and they're going to go and pick up this new car. And they're all excited about it, and young Ryan wants to stay home. Anyways, he wants to stay home because he just got this brand new art kit. Anyway, the art kit had everything a young man would want to draw, colour, design, all that stuff that was in it. One of those lovely old art kits, all the colours of rainbows in there, textures, crayons and pencils and everything else. So anyway, he's excited, he's got paper and he's like, nah, mum, dad, I'd rather stay home. I just want to draw, man. And he's got his G.I. Joes on the table and he's really excited. I just want to stay home. Oh, family's all, excited to go and pick up the car. Nah, it's all right. Anyways, they say, yeah, okay, mate, you want to be a big boy and stay home all by yourself? Alrighty then, you can do that. We won't be long, we'll be about 45 minutes. It's only, Mount Druitt at the time. We're at Shelby/Wilmot. So they go and pick up the car and, they've gone. I believe the neighbour might have even been dropping them up there to go and pick it up, and that's why there wasn't a seat available for young Ryan, some situation like that. And he was happy to stay at home. Anyway, sitting at the table, after the parents had left, 15 minutes in or whatnot, young Ryan's there and he's playing with his art kit and he's colouring in, having the time of his life. He's got his G.I. Joes and, even young G.I. Joes having a go at colouring in and drawing dragons and whatever else the imagination has evolved for that young man. Anyways, he's colouring in and having his go, all excited at home. So he kind of gets a tingling feeling, all the hairs stand up on end, and he looks down his arm, cold breeze comes over the shoulder, looks at his arms, goosebumps come over him, what was that? And as he's looked from his arms, his eyes have gazed up in what was the hallway leading into the bathroom. And in that bathroom gaze there, he could see this shadow mist that's gone through the hallway and into the bathroom. Full body apparition from head to toe. Like mist type thing, could see straight through it, and he's just double blinked and gone, whoa, what was that? What was that? The hair's still standing on end, the air's kind of static at this time, and he's thinking, this is scary. This is scary. That was something. I just seen something. And he's, you know what? I'm going to grab G.I. Joe. I'm just going to back out the door. And as that's happening, the feeling in his arms and that static in the air, and it gets heavier. You can feel like electricity in the air. So he's backed his way out the door. He's thinking, nah, I'll just go. I'm just going to go. Big boy, let's go and wait outside. So he thinks, yeah, I'm going to get away as far away the house as I can as I'm allowed to. So he goes all the way out to the letterbox. This is a good, probably, 15 metres from the house, normal kind of size front yard for the western suburbs in the time. Young Ryan's out there and he's next to the letterbox and he's playing with his G.I. Joe through the grass. Bam, bam, bam. He's got a camera, and playing away. And then he looks up at the window, the front window next to the front door there. And the Venetian blind, the old split blinds, the Venetian ones that hang down, he looks up and you can only describe what he can see is his mother's face looking at him between those Venetian blinds. And it's staring straight at him. Big brown eyes, brown face like his mother, curly black hair, looking right at him, staring at him. And he just looks back down at the grass and he's thinking, no, that can't be true. I know mum isn't home. I know she's out there and I know she's, picking up the new car with dad. That is not mum. Oh my God, and he looks up again from under his eyebrows, you can still see there, and it's staring at him. Staring at him, he's going, oh, yeah, I'm scared now. What is that? I know I can't run away. I can't run away because I'm not allowed to. I'll be missing. Like, can't even go to the neighbour's house at the moment. Oh my gosh. So he's like, just won't look at it. Won't look at it. So he's not making eye contact with it. Continues to play with his cars and, next to his job. And then next thing you know, old neighbour Nicole, she lives across the street in this big old cul-de-sac that they live at. And she says, oh, g'day, Ryan, what are you doing? And he goes, oh, I'm just waiting here for my parents to get home. And she says, oh, what are you waiting outside for? And he goes, oh, because there's something spooky inside. And she looks up and she goes, oh, is your mum home? And he goes, no, she's not. And she goes, oh, who's that then? And she points at the face in the window and he looks at her and he says, you can see that? And she says, yeah, hi. And she waves her hand, hi, Vion. And he looked up at Nicole and he said, I'm home alone. Like, I'm home alone. And she says, what? No, you're not. That's your mum's face right there in the window. And she's waving. She goes, hi, V, how you doing? And he's, I'm home alone. Mum's not home. They're out picking up the new car. And she says, no way. That's your mum's face in the window. And he says, no, it's not. Nobody's home. That's what I'm freaked out about. And she's standing, she goes, nah, still in disbelief. He says, yeah, I'm telling you, whatever that is, it's not my mother. And she goes, nah, no way, let's go and walk up to it. And she all right then. So they both link arms. Nicole and Ryan link those arms. Anyways, one step after the other. They go, all right, one step closer. It's still there. Two-step closer. It's still there, looking at him, staring at him between the Venetian blinds as they get closer. Third step in, now this thing started to draw its way back into those Venetian blinds. And then fourth step in, fully then disappeared back behind those Venetian blinds. Both kids then, kind of done the spider on me attack, like both twitched, jumped up on the spot, freaking out, going, oh my God. Almost instantly after that, both standing there in, that kind of, arachnophobic moment. Then the parents pull up in this brand new four-wheel drive sedan looking thing, hanging out the windows, all woohoo, look at us in our new car. And then, Ryan runs up and he says, I've just seen this, they're not wanting to listen, they just got their new car. And then they're dismissing him. He's going, no, listen, guys, I've just seen something really scary inside. Nicole's there going, I seen it. It was your mum's face. It was Vion. It was her face in the window. And then, the father's there and he's going, nah, come on, guys, what? Nah, come on, look at the new car, no, don't worry about it. We've got this new car. And pretty much dismissed Ryan and Nicole from that whole thing. Anyway, later on that night, after, the excitement of the cars cooled down and all that, the new car, Ryan brings it up again. He says, Mum, look, I really need to tell you, I'm serious about what I seen. And at that moment, they both heard a baby crying. Now, they're looking at the baby sister Stephanie there, and she's right next to them. She's in the cot, and they can hear another baby crying. And they think, what? That's got to be a neighbour. Seriously, it's got to be a neighbour. And they look around the house, and they're going, what? Now, I'm talking the father's looking he's looking around, going, what is that? That's in the house. He's saying that's in the house. No. And, V's going, no, it can't be. Our baby's right here. And she, picked the baby up, Stephanie. And she's holding her going, no, they're like, what? And, Natasha's sitting there going, Mum, something's wrong. Something's up, Anyway, so, Dad's kind of gone in protective mode and he's like, whatever you are, wherever you are, you're not welcome here. And then things kind of went silent for a sec. Then it started again. He goes, wherever you are, you're not welcome here. And then he starts to make his way around the house. He's looking around the house and he's, going through all the rooms. Wherever you are, you're not welcome. And this voice of the baby's crying couldn't be found. He couldn't find exactly where it was, but it's coming from somewhere. Anyways, he finally gets the linen closet or the living press or whatever you want to call it, the drawer, the cupboard where you put all your blankets. And he gets there and it looks down on the ground and there's like snail trail on the ground, like glittery, slimy snail trail. Like there's been 5 or 6 snails that have made their way across the carpet at some point and not being noticed. The slimy snail and the remnants of it. He thinks, what is that? He flings open the cupboard, and this odour hits him in the face. Vomit. He's ready to spew up. He's, oh, I can't. What the? Only days before that, young Ryan was playing hide and seek and hid in that very cupboard, and there was no smell in there. Nothing ominous, nothing that smelled dead, nothing that smelled like he described as dog shit, vomit, and death. And he's there, and what the. Anyway, so he slammed the cupboard closed. And goes, V, there's something wrong in that cupboard. And she's like, no, I'm a good housewife. There's nothing filthy in there. So they both decide then they're both going to go in there and start ripping everything out. And they rip all the stuff out, empty it out, nothing. There's nothing left. There's everything's out on the floor, and there's nothing left in the cupboard. And the smell's still there, but there's nothing to give the smell. So anyways, they're thinking, no, all right, we've got to call, a plumber, or we've got to call, the landlord at this point, because this is wrong. Anyway, so, pack all the stuff up in a bag overnight. They decide they're going to air the cupboard out. And, anyways, later on that night, everyone's in sleep. Ryan's in bed, and he's thinking, I can't really sleep that much. And he's looking out, and his door's open. And he's looking at his door, and he's thinking, is that moving? Is that moving? And he's looking directly at his door, and his door's swaying ever so slightly, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And he's like, no, I must be like half asleep. No, that's not really happening. It's back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And he's like, no, I'm just too tired. So he rolls over and just going to go to sleep, it's rustling on the window from the trees outside. And, he's thinking about his door, and he peeks over his shoulder, and it's still rustling back and forth. At that moment, he heard his dad get up and get out of bed, and, usual midnight urination. And his dad walks past like nothing else. Door's open. Anyways, walks in, does his business at the same time, Anyways, he's coming back across, and I remember his shadow kind of passing and then coming back. And then young Ryan's like, I remember his shadow, like, he passed, and then he took 2 steps back, and I was kind of thinking, do I look, am I in trouble because I'm not asleep? Am I in trouble? Oh, because I'm not asleep, I'm going to be in trouble. I'll just pretend to be asleep right now. So young Ryan's there, and he's pretending to be asleep while his dad's standing in the doorway. And he's thinking, can he see that? He might be looking at the door. He might be watching the door sway back and forth, and I'm going to say, I can see it too. So young Ryan's then kind of, pried his eyes open and kind of then looked over, and, his dad's still standing in the doorway in disbelief looking at him, and he's like, hey, Dad. And his dad's blinked his eyes twice and gone, son, come here. And he's going, what? I'm going to get a slap upside of the head because I'm not asleep. No, Dad, nah. No, son, seriously. Just needs you to come here, mate. You're not in trouble, just come here. Anyway, so young Ryan jumps off the bed, makes his way over to his father. His father, hugs him next to the hip, and he's thinking, fucking, this is strange. Dad's not usually this comforting. Like, oh, fuck. Like, he's going to slap me upside the head at any moment now. He's going to fucking tell me I'm a dickhead and, go back to sleep. Anyways, and he says, look, you can sleep in our bed tonight. And young Ryan's thinking, what? Right? You never sleep like what? You never ever let me sleep in your bed, and you're inviting me to go and sleep there with your mum tonight. What the? And he goes, no, mate, look, just come with me now. You're coming to sleep in our bed. Yeah, all right. Anyway, so he said, yep, just sleep next to me, mate, right here. So young Ryan, the girl's up next to him, dad next to mum and everyone like that. There's too many in one bed. Anyways, during the night, young Ryan's, half asleep, and he's like, like it was a waterbed at the time, so not only was it foreign, it was really uncomfortable, and still, he's not managing much sleep. And he described what he said in a half a dream. He looked behind the door, and he could see a gremlin face. He said, now this thing had, white, big, white eyes, green pupils in the middle type thing. It looked like a sick little man with red hair. Very, old and wrinkly in the face, very sick looking, rotten teeth, and those big white eyes with the green pupils just kind of staring out behind him as its claws creaked around the outside of the door. And, he's kind of shitting himself at this time. He's going, oh my God, like, no, I'm not tripping. This is something like, oh my God. So he rolls over and he's just thinking, nah, face in the pillow, just get through tonight. Get through tonight. So, anyway, so he does. Puts his face in the pillow and he just thinks, you know what, that's it, I'm going to get through tonight. So he does. Waking up the next morning, a bit refreshed, thinking, got a couple of hours sleep in. Anyway, his dad's there and his dad's having coffee. Wait, big time for Ryan. Sister is normal, mum's in the kitchen. And he says, mate, look, do you know why you needed to jump in my bed last night? And young Ryan says, nah, Dad, why? Why is that? I thought I was in trouble because I couldn't sleep. And he said, no, mate, look, what I need to let you know is that I seen a girl on the end of your bed. And young Ryan's like, what? What do you mean, a girl? And, young Ryan's thinking, what, a good-looking girl? And he goes, no, I'd seen her and she had, long red hair. And he said half her face was burnt and she was in a white nightgown and she was just sitting there and she was smiling at me. And young Ryan's kind of just froze inside going, like, I know something was up that night. I knew, like, something was wrong. So anyways, he's, trying to gather himself after his dad's told his story with, almost that sneeze feeling in his eyes. And he's going, well, that's a lot to take in. Anyway, so Dad takes another sip of the coffee and Ryan kind of takes two stirs of his wheat bix and he's looking at his mum and she's in the kitchen and she's frying up something in a fry pan, bacon and eggs, whatever it might be. And the next thing you know, the kitchen exploded. Absolutely in a gas bomb that went off in a flame ball that curled up and around the roof and then fell down the other side. Singeing mum's eyebrows in a circle around the top of her head. At the time, rolling up, catching the curtains I light. So they just singed like nylon, and the fireball like soot kind of darkened everything in that room. And it was a 3-second explosion that would boof like that, and then this fuel of gas just was coming out from behind the oven. And we're just like all looking at each other, all in this moment of what just happened. Like our ears are gone, we're looking and we're going, what is this? Young Ryan's trying to gather himself, and and Dad's pretty cool in these moments. And Dad's out, grabs V, kind of grabs her, puts her down, puts the rug that's on the floor over her head, gets her out the door, and young Stephanie's out the door as well. And Ryan's out there and they're watching their house burn down. This kitchen's on fire, full of blaze. They can hear the ambulance coming in the far ground, and they can hear someone almost inside saying, "Get the child out, get the child out." And they're like looking around, and they're going, "No, all of our children are here." And this voice continues to say, "Get the child out, get the child out." And they're like looking around, and this is all the neighbours that are gathering and looking at the fire, and they're looking at each other going, we're not the ones saying this. Is there somebody still in that fire? And someone yells out, is there somebody still in there? And then the voice says, get the child out, get the child out. And then the fire brigade come rolling down the street, and then it overpowers whatever other sounds they can hear. And they kind of told the fire brigade, look, we think there's someone still in there. Everyone's accounted for that was in this fire, in this explosion. Anyways, and we can still hear someone. Fire brigade goes in, they put the fire out, and they explain that there was actually a gas bubble in the line, and that bubble built up until the point where the bubble in the rubber exploded, and when that gas hit the flame, obviously an explosion happened, and then actually ignited the rest of the line, fueling the fire that happened. Anyways, there was no one else inside as they described. They put the fire out, and that was the cause of the fire. And kind of the family after that, a bit hesitant to continue to live there. So they did apply for a transfer to go at another place not long after that. But, it took a few months of living in our household and a few more of those supernatural coincidences happening before they got to move out. And young Ryan was quite in a, in a state of development, of imagination. And not only that, he also was aware of what was going on amongst him in that house. So he started to recognize some of the signs and, the things that were going on. And started to, tell, his family about them, his mother and his father, because they were believing, they weren't now being dismissive as they first were. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you enjoyed our story for the night. Please leave your feedback, your comments, or whatever you'd like. Cheers.